Welcome everyone to today's webinar. It's great to see so many people out there. We're happy to bring you the topic of Enrich Informatica MDM with Dun & Bradstreet data. Today we've prepared what we hope will be useful for you to better manage and trust the business, contact, firmographic, and hierarchy data that you rely on. Informatica is working with Dun & Bradstreet and our partners to develop solutions like the one we'll view today, solutions that address our customers' needs to help them not only optimize their master data solutions, but to shorten the time to value so that companies can accelerate how they unleash the power of their data. Today we will share how customer information and contact data is dynamic and is in a constant state of change, impacting not only business outcomes, but also productivity, which may be contributing to hidden costs. We'll review how enriched data helps improve MDM and increases the business value of your data. And we'll show you how Dun & Bradstreet Direct for Informatica can quickly access the Dun & Bradstreet Data Cloud, which contains more than 300 million business records, to ensure that the customer data in your MDM solution remains trusted, complete, and current. But first, before we begin, I'd like to go through a few housekeeping items that I hope will help make the experience a better one for you. If this is your first time on a Bright Talk webinar, you can enlarge the screen by toggling the double arrows in the lower right-hand corner of the presentation window. You'll need to hover over the window to expose this capability, and this may be handy during the demo portion to better see the content of the screens. We do realize that that may cause these screens to blur just a little bit, and I want to assure you that we've done our best to help eliminate that resolution degradation, but just be aware that that may happen when you enlarge the screen. To help eliminate background noise, all lines have been muted. You're probably asking, what if I have a question? So you'll see box number 2, and if you do have a question, please enter it into the Q&A window. We'll see it and answer it either at the end of today's presentation or we'll reach out afterwards. We also have attachments related to this webinar that you can access, including today's presentation and a link to the website for D&B Direct for Informatica. If you have audio issues, please start by clicking below the window to ask for assistance from Bright Talk. And finally, we also hope that you provide your feedback. It's very important to us, and we read every comment. So next, I would really like to ask those people that are joining me to introduce themselves. We have Michael Anderson from Dun & Bradstreet. So Michael, why don't we start with you?
Hi, thanks, Monica. I'm Michael Anderson. I'm a product leader within Dun & Bradstreet's S&MS business unit, and have responsibility for our integration products and our master data offerings. I am based out of our Austin, Texas office. So Rob?
Great. Thank you. Yeah, Rob, next to you.
Yeah, hi all. My name is Rob Kaplan. I'm with a services company that focuses on Informatica MDM, a company named GlobalSoft, to run that business and focused on the business side of the organization, whereas most of our other resources are more technical resources. I'm based in San Jose, California, not far from Informatica.
Great, thank you, and welcome. I'm glad that we're doing this today, and thank you for joining. I'm Monica Mullen. I'm Principal Solutions Marketing Manager at Informatica, and I'm responsible for solutions marketing for our Customer 360 solutions, which include MDM Customer 360, Customer 360 for Salesforce, and Customer 360 for Life Sciences. You'll see Customer 360 later when we get into the demo portion of today's webinar. So let's talk a little bit about customer data. Our own customers say that customer data is the lifeblood of their customer centricity programs. And customer experience is becoming increasingly a strategic initiative for many businesses today, with estimates as high as 9 out of 10 companies competing on customer experience, and nearly 70% of customers choosing a company based on the types of interactions and experiences they have with a company. So more so than the price of a product or advertising for that product. So what makes today's topic so relevant is that to deliver those experiences that customers want, you need to have data you can trust when making critical decisions that impact the experience. But not only is customer information scattered and fragmented across your organization in all of the systems and applications and spreadsheets that your business users use, it's changing all the time. In fact, it changes every hour. So while we're having this webinar today, your customer, partner, and supplier information is actually degrading, and the impact can be disheartening. About 200 companies just changed their addresses. Will your account executive go to the right location? 700 new businesses have opened their doors. Will you get there for early advantage before your competitors do? How will you know? Nearly 300 executive changes have occurred, people that you may have valuable relationships with, and over 400 telephone numbers have changed. So I think you get the picture. As data continues to decay, the people who use it also lose trust in it or spend more time than they should correcting it. So step one is creating a way to maintain your data and ensuring it's up to date so that it remains trusted. And if step one is ensuring your customer data is current, step two is enriching customer records to ensure that they are complete and the information that you need is readily available when you need it. With Dun & Bradstreet data feeding Informatica MDM, you can incorporate information so that your MDM solution fuels the insights your team needs across the company. For marketing and sales, that means better and more accurate segmentation based on more complete and comprehensive data to deliver more relevant offers that improve the customer experience. Your sales teams can reach clients and prospects to have higher value conversations with the right point of contact and know the difference between a billing address, an office address, and a shipping address way in advance before they visit the office. And your systems can be updated as industry consolidation or spin-offs occur, perhaps to realign sales territories or better understand the contribution of certain customers for your overall revenue, getting to that top 10 list of customers. Or risk scores can help with contracting and billing decisions or even pricing decisions or compliance with regulations such as know your customer in the financial sector. And there's more. And here's an example from one of our customers. It's a global company with diverse lines of business. They had 8 million customer records spread across 13 different Salesforce instances. Master data management helped to reduce and eliminate the duplicates so they could really see that they had a little over 1.3 million unique customers. And then by adding the Dun & Bradstreet data to the master records, they were able to uncover that 73,000 of their customers had actually gone out of business, but were still being held as a customer in their books. Not only that, they could also better understand the relationships between what appeared as individual customers, but were actually subsidiaries or had other business relationships by using the corporate hierarchical structures that D&B provides, some of which are very complex. You can imagine Berkshire Hathaway owns 66 different companies across 29 various industries. How do you manage that and view that as a single entity to roll up and understand the revenue contribution that maybe Berkshire Hathaway provides? So next, I would like to ask Michael to explain just what is D&B Direct for Informatica before we demonstrate how D&B data can be brought into Informatica MDM. Michael? Michael, I think you might still be on mute.
Yes, thank you. I was. Let's talk first a little bit about the Dun & Bradstreet Data Cloud. So this is how we as Dun & Bradstreet deliver master data insights into the Informatica ecosystem. And so the Dun & Bradstreet Data Cloud we see as key to a solid data foundation. It powers our master data solutions with structured, governed, connected, and pre-mastered commercial content. It delivers a trusted data foundation required to accelerate growth, reduce costs, manage risks, and ultimately transform your business. Central to the Dun & Bradstreet Data Cloud is the concept of live business identity, which represents all of the information about a given entity in our data cloud. So live business identity starts with our universal identifier, which is the Dun & Bradstreet DUNS number, which is assigned through our patented identity resolution process and gives any given company, defines any given company as distinct and unique from another company within the data cloud. While obviously companies don't have fingerprints, the DUNS number could be considered a corporate fingerprint. So just as personal identities, though, are much more than that fingerprint, our live business identity is more than the DUNS number. It's the DUNS number plus the insights that go with that DUNS number, the data to help maximize relationships, including things like corporate hierarchies, business performance indicators, and continuous activity monitoring. The Dun & Bradstreet Data Cloud contains unrivaled business data coverage consisting of more than 300 million records across the world, which make up a majority of the world's gross domestic product. So we will most likely cover the businesses that you care about, your customers care about, their customers, their suppliers, their partners, and their prospects. Within that data cloud, over 120 million companies are part of a corporate family tree or legal hierarchy, giving deep insight into ownership and linkage into relationships across companies. And so if you think about all of these relationships and all of these connections between entities, you can quickly envision our data cloud containing trillions of these such relationships. We see the Dun & Bradstreet, we see a solid master data foundation is critical to solving the data chaos challenge. So let's talk a little bit about D&B Direct for Informatica now. Oftentimes, we have overlapping customers from Dun & Bradstreet and from Informatica. Many customers leveraging Informatica MDM also leverage Dun & Bradstreet. And what we typically provide then is an API or batch reference data for folks to integrate into that solution. So what we're here talking about today with D&B Direct for Informatica is a pre-integrated solution where the Dun & Bradstreet Data Cloud is pre-integrated into Informatica MDM, and we'll see an example of that and a demo from Rob here shortly. So it's the integration of master data through the plug-and-play connector made specifically for Informatica MDM. Clients can now take advantage of automated matching resolution, have immediate access to enriched data from Dun & Bradstreet, which can either be incorporated or not incorporated directly into the data model, and then we can also keep that information up to date via our monitoring capabilities. So this is all natively supported to the solution without the need for transformational development projects. We are pre-integrated. And so what do we see there? From the set of customers who are already using D&B Direct and Informatica, we see that a standard project might be 9 to 12 months. That's someone who comes to Dun & Bradstreet, licenses content through our API, builds their own integration into Informatica MDM or into C360. We see that could be a 9 to 12 month project. With what we're talking about here today, that 9 to 12 months shrinks by 80%, down to 8 to 10 weeks. And why we see this as important is it dramatically accelerates the time to value, and ultimately the end customers are able to start to realize value of the Dun & Bradstreet and Informatica integration much sooner than if they were to build this themselves. So with that, I will turn it over to Rob Kaplan.
Thanks, Michael. I appreciate that introduction. As I said earlier, my name is Rob Kaplan. I'm going to be showing you the D&B enrichment solution for Informatica and MDM. But first, a little bit about GlobalSoft and why D&B and Informatica are working with us to deliver this solution. GlobalSoft specializes in Informatica MDM, providing services, solutions, and operations to help customers of Informatica MDM get the most out of their investment. We started working with Informatica technology stack back in the Cyperion days and have been a close partner of both Cyperion and Informatica, providing project delivery capability as well as training services. Due to our deep product knowledge and breadth of implementation experience, we've been well positioned to identify functional gaps and build solutions that are needed by customers. In addition to this that you're seeing today, the D&B enrichment solution, we also have a monitoring and reporting solution that provides insight into the operations of the MDM hub. With that background, on to our demo. During our demo, I will be using Informatica Customer 360 and showing how this solution will provide enrichment of your records with data from D&B. But first, let me set the stage of what you will see. Our scenario will be to use a data steward to create a new account in Customer 360. We will create that account and request a match from D&B during the creation. Once satisfied with that match, that we have the correct organization, we will save that record and the enrichment will happen in the background. We will then be able to view that record fully enriched in Customer 360. I should note that there are other options for this solution in addition to what you're about to see. Specifically, there are options for non-Customer 360 deployments. We have an enrichment solution for all versions of MDM 9 and MDM 10. Secondly, most customers prefer enrichment to be executed automatically without manual involvement of a data steward. And the solution can be configured for that as well. And lastly, the solution does support the D&B monitoring function that Michael spoke of earlier, which will keep your records up to date when D&B makes changes to the data. All right, let's have a look at the demo. I'm just going to share our screen. So what you're looking at is a standard vanilla out-of-the-box implementation of Customer 360. This is in GlobalSoft's demo system. It has not been changed at all other than having the enrichment solution installed. And that includes some code that's an adapter which makes the connection into D&B. It also includes some provisioning code which modifies the MDM system to support the data, has the mappings from the adapter there, and to display it in the UI. But it's basically a standard system, and you would just import that provisioning code or install that. It's a very simple, it only takes a few hours to be up and running. So I've now entered the Customer 360, and this is the standard screen a data steward would see. And now I want to create a new record. As I said in our scenario, this will be creating a new account by the data steward. So I'm going to select that. And for today, I'm going to be using the company Garmin. I think many of you would know Garmin is the GPS company. Now, the fields here that are highlighted in red are required by Customer 360. Two of these, the legal business name and the country, are also required by D&B. And those are the minimal requirements. We will be adding some additional information, but right now I'm just going to use the minimal requirements. As you can see, I've now selected the DAS provider. I should mention that Customer 360 and MDM 10 and above support third-party DAS providers. Obviously, we've installed our adapter here, but you could have other solutions installed as well. And so the UI will allow you to select which one you want to use. And now we are making that call to D&B and presenting a list of match candidates. In this case, we have 32 different possible match candidates with a confidence code listed. As you can see, all of these have a confidence code of 6, which for this demo, we're going to say is not adequate. So we are going to improve our match criteria, or I should say our input criteria. It probably goes without saying that the more and better the inputs that you provide, the better the output. And so you can see by improving the amount of inputs we provided, we've reduced our list of candidates to 2, and we have increased our confidence code to 9. In this case, I'm going to select the first one, which is the one that I want, and import that, and click the import button. Now, after I do that, the record will be saved, and the enrichment will take place. The company profile happens synchronously, so that information has been retrieved from D&B. And while that is happening, asynchronously, the family tree is being built. So it's not there yet, but it's in the process of being built. While we're waiting on that, you can see at this view, which is the organizational dashboard, you can see we now have a DUNS number, some parent DUNS information, industry classification, some financial data has been added as well. But I'm going to go over to the business entity where we see more of this enriched information. As you can see, we have the parent DUNS and the ID. This one that I have highlighted on the screen is the DUNS number for the entity that I brought in. That is the identifier that D&B will use to deliver whatever services you want or whatever data you want from D&B. You'll have to reference that ID. As you can see, here's the information that I added the first time. And here is the data that D&B has provided. So they have done much more complete information about the address, provided a zip code. Along with that, we get the phone number, web address, a variety of executives are provided, and some financial information. Now, if I scroll up, I'm hoping that our relationship data is, you can see there are 21 related parties, and we are going to go look at the hierarchical view of this data. And I should be able to build a tree structure here. Again, this is just the standard implementation of Customer 360. You can customize it to provide different views, different data. I should mention that D&B provides over 200 attributes in company profile. Not all of those are supported in the Customer 360 data model, and if you wanted those additional attributes to be available, you can customize your data model and customize the mappings. The adapter does provide support for all of those data attributes, so they are available to you. You just have to add some mappings to support that. So the entity that we created and supported is this one highlighted here in the middle, but you can see we've been presented with a parent organization and a global ultimate organization. These red lines are representative of the global ultimate relationship. The blue ones are represent a parent organization. So we're able to see a fairly robust hierarchical view of Garmin. And with that, I am going to hand it back to Michael to summarize what we've seen.
All right, thank you, Rob. So just to bookend this demo a little bit, what we saw was, we saw Rob take us through creating an account, was able to search against not just his Informatica universe, but against Dun & Bradstreet to assign a DUNS number from the start to prevent the propagation of duplicates. We're able to enrich that automatically with D&B content, and then you saw immediate access to corporate hierarchy. So if you step back and think about this a little bit, this is the type of work that many of our common customers need to go do on their own with Dun & Bradstreet's APIs and with the Informatica platform. And I'll tell you, from the ones I've seen, they're not as complete, they're not as simple, and often end customers can struggle to build this integration on their own. And so you can imagine how what we talked about is this 80% reduction in time to value for our customers. I think this is a great illustration of what they're able to do very quickly once they're up and running with the D&B Direct for Informatica integration. So let's just talk a little bit about the data that's available through this integration. I know, so from a data enrichment perspective, you'll see faster, more accurate record completion, so better data. This is Dun & Bradstreet's pre-mastered commercial content from a trusted source across our tens of thousands of data sources. We've cleaned and standardized it, and we end up with the legal entity name. So it's not just the address of a company, but it's the business identity of that company and some context about that organization and where they sit within a corporate hierarchy. So the company profile here adds over 200 attributes, including those related parties. And again, back to the benefits, it's ease of implementation, so faster time to value. They're able to get up and running much faster. This is less expensive to implement and support. From a off-the-shelf integration perspective, this is simple to manage, it's a rich set of functionality, and it's fully supported with GlobalSoft as our partner. So on the content that's available, just diving in, you saw some of this before. So our company profile, this is the primary name, the primary address, mailing address, trade styles for that company. So trade styles, what other alternative names are there? Industry codes, and this is a suite of industry codes from SICs to NAICS to NACE in Europe. Basically every industry code view that Dun & Bradstreet can provide. What type of company is it, the number of employees, the revenue, who are the executives, and immediately what does that upward linkage look like? Who's the parent, who's the domestic ultimate, who's the global ultimate, which is often used to aid in internal reporting, sales territory planning, and all of these things. So from a full family tree perspective, what we're talking about here is the full legal hierarchy of an entire corporate family tree, and that's what you saw Rob present with Garmin. So you saw the parent all the way down through the subsidiaries and branches, and you saw that the entity that we created lives somewhere in the middle of that family tree. And so to me, the power here is that you're able to, again, immediately have access to that full corporate hierarchy and make decisions about whether you want to pull in additional organizations from that tree as well. So let's talk a little bit about getting started and how this integration works. So with the pre-integrated solution with the connectors, there are a couple of workshops and packages to help your customers get up and running faster. So the first, which is something that we include with every connector, is a Kickstart workshop. And this is basically, think of this as a training workshop to help customers implement the connector successfully and quickly. It's performed by GlobalSoft. It's 2 4-hour sessions, and it's really about the training to help them get on their feet with this integration. The second alternative we have is a quick start package, and this is where GlobalSoft will actually implement the connector into your customer's Informatica instance for them. So this is available for family tree, for the corporate profile, which you saw, and then also the family tree that you saw Rob present on. And this includes the matching up front and includes the ongoing monitoring and keeping that data up to date. And so this is a great way to have, to even further accelerate the startup time by having GlobalSoft come out and help with this quick start. So with that,
All
Monica?
right. Yeah. So thank you, Michael and Rob, for a great review and demonstration of what's possible. We do have time for a few questions. So we've had a couple of them come in. Let me start with one. I think that I know we get a lot of questions internally around, the overlap between Informatica and Dun & Bradstreet with Informatica's Address Doctor and the capabilities of Dun & Bradstreet and what you're able to provide as well. And I think we view that more as complementary. I'd like to get your perspective on that, Michael.
Sure. Well, when I think about Dun & Bradstreet's identity resolution capabilities, really for us, the key here is that we use those capabilities to ultimately get to a DUNS number, to get to an identifier that maps to a unique corporate entity within our data cloud. And sure, along the way, there could be some, address cleansing and munging in order to get there. But ultimately, what our outcome and what we drive towards with our identity resolution is to get to that DUNS number, so we have the unique corporate identity that includes all of that other good content from Dun & Bradstreet.
Yeah, and I think that's a great point, right? You're focused on the DUNS number, the business, the enrichment elements that you reviewed earlier as well. Address Doctor is really focusing on addresses, right? Any address. It doesn't have to be a business. It can be a residence. It could be a new building. It could be a government entity. It could be anything that has an address. So I think that, in that respect, they are very, very complementary to one another, as far as that goes. So, all right. Another question that came in is, what are the details, and I think you covered this on one of the slides, right? What details are important for the entities that get created to build the family tree? All company profile or just name and relationship? And I think I saw this back on slide 15. I can jump back there real quick. But is there anything else you wanted to add around that, or is there anything that I might be missing? So what details
Michael,
are important? Yeah.
So I think this captures it well. So it is the company profile that is imported, and as Rob mentioned during his demo, there's a breadth of additional information and content into the supply and finance space that's available from Dun & Bradstreet also, that while isn't pre-integrated off the shelf, is certainly something that could be brought in as well. But what you see here, the company profile that's kind of pre-integrated, and then also optionally the full family tree or the legal hierarchy.
And then what gets mapped to the customer 360 data model as well, right? So I'm sorry, Robert, what were you going to say?
I was just going to say, Michael, I interpreted that question a little bit differently. I think the question was for what data is included for an entity as part of full family tree. And I think you have here on the screen that you not only get the legal name of each of the related parties, the relationship, the DUNS number, but you get an address, it looks like you get a few various data attributes along with the company, the related company, and the relationship. That's how I interpreted that question.
Got it. Oh, so Rob, you know what? That makes a ton of sense. And yes, by default, there's a slimmer set of data that's included with each element in the family tree, as you see. And there typically are things geared towards rolling up things like employee counts and revenue for sizing, and things like industry codes, so that you can look and start to discern whether a parent, may be in the same industry as a subsidiary, and start to discern, is this more of a holding company or whatnot. So this content from the family tree mirrors what Dun & Bradstreet would provide kind of by default if you were to just license directly through D&B Direct.
Okay, next question. Does the monitoring capability handle the soft delete of records and relationships in MDM for things that are no longer active? For example, a company changes its phone number. Well, I see the old phone removed from MDM and only the new one visible. Same for relationships and reparented.
I can answer that one. It is not handled per se in the monitor. The monitoring capability will provide you the updated information. How that is handled within your MDM instance is a configurable requirement. It's part of the implementation of the monitor, what you will do within MDM, how you will handle the changes that are presented to you. So you may have certain changes that you want to be reviewed by a data steward, for example. That is something you will have to implement in MDM when you're consuming those changes. Likewise, for any change, you'll have to do it. There may be certain attributes you don't care about, and you won't map those. You will a new phone number, to use your example, and a new phone number comes in to replace it, you will, the new phone number is likely to be implemented as a new cross-reference record as it comes in, and you will have to have your defined so that the new phone number would replace the old phone number if that's what you want. So the short answer is that is based upon the design that you want to put in place as part of implementation of the solution.
Yeah, and I would add also that Informatica MDM does capture the lineage and the history of all changes that occur in a mastered record. So it can identify if that source of the change came in from the Dun & Bradstreet data as well. So.
Yeah.
All right, next question. Do you have employer identification number or tax ID as a supplier data attribute? And do you have reverse lookup using EIN to obtain key supplier fields?
That's a D&B question. I can throw my comment in, but I think I'll turn that over to Michael.
So we do have tax ID, and I don't know that we've exposed a search by tax ID through this integration. And there's one piece of this I may need to get back with you on, just because I know with certain data privacy requirements, we've had to make some changes recently with regards to tax IDs that may also be social security numbers. And so if we could, let's take this one and we'll revert after the call.
Okay, follow up afterwards. Rob, did you want to have a comment on that too, or you're good?
Well, it's just a high-level comment that the services, the D&B services currently supported by the adapter are for company profile and family tree. in addition to the identity resolution. We do have on a roadmap to add services related to supplier risk that support more of enriching supplier data. So if this is specific to a supplier solution, kind of watch this space. I don't know enough about the reverse lookup capability. Michael will have to respond to that, but we are looking to add support for supplier data.
All right. And then there's a similar question. I think you probably addressed it, Michael, with sole proprietor companies included or just companies with an EIN, but I think most sole proprietor companies also leverage a social security number, for example, as their tax ID number.
Sure. So any company in the world with a DUNS number basically would be included here, and oftentimes that could be sole proprietors. As an example, there are many, if you're a company and you want to monetize an app in Apple's App Store and you go to sign up for their enterprise developer program, they require a DUNS number, right? And so what you'll see is that 300 million plus companies around the world are, make up all sorts of different entity types, and that could be a sole proprietor in some cases as well. Now, with a sole proprietor, you're not going to have the corporate hierarchy like you would see, but in general, yes, included.
Okay. I'm going to jump. Oh, was there another comment on that? Okay. I'm going to jump to this question. Can you describe in more detail the methods of integration? API, batch?
Sure,
Michael, do it?
Yeah,
sure.
Yeah, I think, so here, what the method of integration is that this is pre-integrated. So behind the scenes, this connector is built using our D&B Direct Plus API, which is our modern API platform that we can license directly to customers. It's something that we internally at Dun & Bradstreet even are building our own products on now. And so this is the API platform that was used by GlobalSoft for this integration. And we do still have a prior Direct to integration as well. But yeah, this is our D&B Direct API, and it's pre-integrated. So if you have customers that are already customers of Dun & Bradstreet or of D&B Direct, it's going to be the same platform behind the scenes.
Okay. And I know you work directly with our product management team on certification for the solution as well, so ensuring that it is compliant with the MDM capabilities also. So direct relationship is nice. A question came in, is there a list of the available 200 attributes? And I think we've got a link in here in the attachments below that can take you directly to the D&B Direct for Informatica webpage, and I would imagine you could navigate from there to find the list of attributes, but maybe that's something that we can follow up with. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. How does it handle mergers and acquisitions? So this is, I think, similar to the change management question that we had earlier as far as phone numbers, address locations, mergers and acquisitions.
Yeah, I think there's going to be a two-part answer here. I'm going to let Michael talk about how D&B handles mergers and acquisitions with their data and on how that is supported via the monitoring function, which we did not show. We talked a little bit about, but I can talk about that.
Okay, sure. So from a Dun & Bradstreet data perspective, that M&A activity is ultimately going to be reflected in the legal hierarchy. So the standard hierarchy that we provide, or legal hierarchy, represents the corporate ownership and the 51% ownership down. And so any M&A activity would ultimately be reflected in a change in the parent domestic looking at a company profile. So you could see one company yesterday had a global ultimate 1, 2, 3, and today it has global ultimate 4, 5, 6. So that's how it will be reflected in the company profile. And then similarly within the family tree, you would see that M&A activity when it happens and is reflected in D&B's data, that it would be reflected there as well. And so since assuming you're plugged into our monitoring capability, those changes then get published out through the integration. And so I'll turn it over to Rob to talk about what happens next.
Sure. So that would be handled, any change, whether it's through mergers or just the data's been updated, is something that gets handled via the an additional component to this solution called D&B Direct Monitor, and that enables the monitoring function of the D&B API. The D&B Monitor has two primary functions. One, it allows you to select which DUNS you want to monitor. You can either select all or do a subset and manually select which ones that you want for monitoring. But then for those that are being monitored, the monitor will retrieve the change notices, usually daily. You can do it weekly, or you can do it multiple times a day. But it will retrieve whatever changes have been made to the D&B data, and that would include mergers, acquisitions, DUNS changes, so DUNS number changes. And we do, when changes are made, we will reference the, particularly to a DUNS number, which would be reflected in a merger. We will reference the old DUNS number and give you the new DUNS number. Those changes are then put into a landing table. Part of implementing this solution would be to decide what elements and how you want to consume the data from that landing table. So that's the implementation effort. This is why there's a quick start package out there, because there is some work that you need to do in your MDM, particularly to consume the change data from monitoring. But yeah, it gets handled. D&B makes the change, that gets pushed down through the monitoring function, and then gets consumed by your MDM system based upon whatever rules that you want to imply.
Okay. Another question, how long has the solution been available? And then what are some of the use cases that your clients use for this solution?
I think that's probably addressed towards me. In this case, the solution we're talking about is the pre-built components that integrate D&B data with Informatica MDM. We've had a solution in the marketplace since 2013. It was originally built on the 1.x API of D&B Direct. We then revved that with the 2.0 version and added monitoring to that, and we're now up to the D&B Direct Plus API, which is a higher performant solution. As far as the use cases, in I think all cases, except for one, in all cases they're using the enrichment capability, which would be the matching and company profile. In many of the cases, they're also using family tree. And most of those cases use the monitoring function as well. We do have a couple of customers that are only using monitoring because they get the enrichment in some either legacy way or other way. So that's kind of the general use cases. As far as industries, they are very broad. We have a few government and quasi-government customers. We have high-tech customers. We have banking customers. It's very broad. Basically, anyone who would need to know about their their business customers. So it is more of a business scenario, customers or partners. And as I said, we will be or plan to add supplier type information later in the year.
Yeah, and one of the benefits that I think I like as well is, being able to pre-populate the master record with that trusted information, right? So if you are creating a new business record for a company, you can bring in the information, through the API and pre-populate the fields that you want pre-populated, so you don't have to sit and rekey them. And then with the master data management solution, you can then push that out to the other applications that need that information, your ERP systems or your CRM systems or any other application billing system, contracting, all of that, you can push that information out, and it's consistent across the organization. So I think that's a big amount of value that's there, as well as when you get that family tree and those roll-ups, right, being able to recognize, for example, the Garmin hierarchy that you displayed, that all of those sub-companies roll up into one single entity. How much concentrated risk do you have with that entity, either from a supplier point of view, right, or from if that parent entity, for whatever reason, goes out of business, what happens to the subsidiaries, what happens to your supply chain, what happens if they're a customer of yours, what happens to your revenue. So that kind of value and insight that this can bring in as well, I think is really an important element of it. Michael, I don't know if you had anything else you wanted to add around use cases or anything there that you've seen.
I think you both covered it well. I think one thing I will add, that just from a Dun & Bradstreet perspective, what we've seen here, and with this relationship with GlobalSoft and with this integration, is it's been very well received, especially when we bring in our Direct Plus, kind of our more modern API platform, and we started to see some good traction here, kind of across the board. And one we didn't really talk about is how might this have been different than a previous partnership that Informatica and Dun & Bradstreet had. And I think one of the things for me that really sticks out here is you have three different parties kind of focused on what they're best at. For those who are familiar, right, we did have a prior alliance with Informatica and Dun & Bradstreet that was focused on kind of a sell-through, where then Informatica is selling Dun & Bradstreet content as well. And what's interesting here is you have Informatica focused on the master data management software and solution. You have Dun & Bradstreet focused on making sure we're providing the best pre-mastered commercial content. And then you have GlobalSoft, who, of all of our ecosystem integrations, not just in MDM, but across different types of platforms, what GlobalSoft has created here is one of the most robust integrations that we have as well. And so what I'd say is that I really like the way that this is proceeding, in that everybody's kind of focused on what they're best at, and we're starting to see the fruits of that.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. I think that's a really great point, and I was going to end there, but a question just came in. So let me ask that, the question that just came in. Let's see, if it's been covered already, but what if our data does not have associated DUNS number? We have many thousands of vendor records with unique company names, but only 2% of these records have a DUNS ID. How can we identify these IDs in an efficient manner? So I think that goes back to the matching capabilities, right? So
you bet. I'll let Michael answer that, because he can probably talk more about identity resolution. But yes, it's definitely, that's probably the primary use case, or a significant use case at least, is most of your organizations won't have, or their accounts that you're creating won't have DUNS numbers. So getting that DUNS is going to be important. Over to you, Michael.
Yeah, echo that. And just a little bit more about our identity resolution. I know we talked earlier about, how is this different than, say, address doctor capabilities? And so what we are talking about here is this is our sort of fuzzy matching to help get to, from a company name, trade style, address, URL, to a DUNS number. And the way this works behind the scenes is actually a fuzzy match with different grades of confidence and how things matched. And so as a part of this, processing this, you mentioned in an efficient manner, it comes down to, setting certain acceptance criteria for high confidence and high quality matches and not having to steward, every single record individually. And this is really core to our identity resolution capabilities.
Yeah, and then the MDM system, right, the MDM solution itself also has identity resolution and matching capabilities within it. So as you bring in multiple records from other systems like ERP, CRM, and so on, right, into the MDM system, you can either have the match done prior with Dun & Bradstreet, or you can also do those match and fuzzy, deterministic, probabilistic, different types of identity resolution within the MDM solution. So there are multiple ways you can also go about it from a MDM system perspective. Okay, I think that was the last question that came in. So, and we're just around the top of the hour. So I do want to thank everybody for the great questions, for the great interaction today, for joining us as well. And I also want to remind you that if you did like today's content, please do provide us with your feedback in the reviewing window. Or if there's something that we missed, provide that information as well. Don't forget there are attachments in the attachments pane, as well as a link to the D&B Direct website. Thank you to Michael and Robert for sharing your knowledge and wisdom and experience with everybody today. We do hope that this was insightful for you and for everybody that joined, and that there's something that you can use in your own journeys at your own companies. There are plenty of other great insights to explore on this webinar channel as well from my colleagues, not only with master data management, but other topics such as governance and compliance, next-gen analytics, and modernizing architectures with cloud, hybrid cloud, and big data. So until next time, thank you very much for joining today and supporting Informatica webinars.